There's a manuscript, old, fragile, forgotten. It sat in a library for over 1,000 years. Nobody important was looking. Nobody thought to look. Then someone did. And what they found changed everything we thought we knew about math, about history, about who invented what. The year was 628 AD. A man sat down and wrote something extraordinary. Europe wouldn't catch up for another 1,400 years. His name was Brahmagupta, and almost nobody knows him. If this is the kind of history, the kind which is buried, hidden, or erased, then this channel is for you. This is where that mystery history lives. Subscribe to Sri Unplugged, share, like, and comment. If you want me to explore a specific topic, your subscription helps to grow this channel. Let me take you back. Rajasthan, India, 628 AD. A city called Pinmal. Small, dusty, overlooked. A 30-year-old mathematician lives there. His name, Brahmagupta. He's the head astronomer for the king's court. He writes a book. He calls it Brahmasfuta Siddhanta. The correctly opened book of Brahma, 628 pages of pure mathematics, written in verse. Yes, verse. Mathematical rules written like poetry. Because that was how knowledge survived. You memorized it. You carried it in your chest. Now here's what's inside. Chapter 7. 18 short verses. They don't look like much. But those 18 verses contain something the world had never seen. Rules for working with zero, not just using zero as a placeholder. Everyone had done that before. The Babylonians, the Mayans, even the Romans had gaps in their numbers. But Brahmagupta did something different. He treated zero as a number, a real number, with its own rules, its own behavior, its own identity. He wrote, "The sum of 0 and 0 is 0. Simple, yes, but then he kept going. The sum of a positive and 0 is positive. The sum of a negative and 0 is negative. And then the big one. Rules for negative numbers. Debt minus debt equals debt. Fortune minus fortune equals fortune." He was describing subtraction with negative numbers in 628 AD. Europe didn't accept negative numbers until the 17th century. That's a 1,000-year gap. Let that sit. And he wasn't done. He also wrote the first recorded rules for solving quadratic equations, the kind you solve in school, the kind with x squared. He had a method, a complete working method. Written in verse in 628 AD in a dusty town in Rajasthan. Now I need you to understand what this actually means, because it's bigger than one man, it's bigger than one book. Brahmagupta wasn't working alone. He was standing on shoulders. Indian mathematicians had been building for centuries before him. Aryabhata came before him, around 499 AD. Aryabhata had already approximated PA to 4 decimal places, 3.11416. He was remarkably accurate. He also proposed that the Earth rotates on its axis, not the sun moving around the Earth moving, a full 1,000 years before Copernicus. But we gave Copernicus the credit. Then came Brahmagupta. He built on Aryabhata. He fixed some of Aryabhata's errors. He extended the work. He went further. And after Brahmagupta came more. Bhaskara I, Mahavira, Brahmagupta's students. An entire tradition. An entire lineage of mathematical thought in India, centuries before the Renaissance. Now, here's where the story turns. Around 770 AD, an Indian scholar travels to Baghdad. He carries Brahmagupta's work with him. The Caliph of Baghdad, Al-Mansur, receives it. He has it translated immediately into Arabic. The book becomes famous. In the Arab world, scholars study it obsessively. A man named Al-Khwarizmi reads it carefully, very carefully. Al-Khwarizmi writes his own book. He builds on what Brahmagupta built. His book gets a Latin title later, Algoritmi de Numero Indorum, translated in English as Al-Khwarizmi on Indian numbers. Even the title admits the source. Indian numbers, Indian methods, Indian zero. But here's what happened next. That Latin title got shortened, simplified. The word algorithmi became algorithm, named after Al-Khwarizmi, not after Brahmagupta, not after India. And Al-Khwarizmi's other book, Al-Kitab al-Mukhtasar fi Hisab al-Jabr, gave us another word, al-Jabr, algebra. Now Al-Khwarizmi is called the father of algebra. He deserves credit. He was brilliant. He synthesized. He extended. But the foundation was Brahmagupta's. The zero was Brahmagupta's. The quadratic method was Brahmagupta's. The negative numbers were Brahmagupta's. The knowledge traveled west. And somewhere on that journey, the source got lost. So why don't we know this? Why wasn't this in your textbook? Why didn't your teacher say his name? There are a few reasons. The first one is simple. Language. Brahmagupta wrote in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is difficult. It was never widely translated into European languages. Not during the Renaissance. Not during the Enlightenment. Not during the centuries when Europe was building its universities. When Europeans were writing the textbooks, the Sanskrit manuscripts were sitting, waiting, in libraries across India, unread by the people who were writing history. The second reason is colonialism. This is the harder part. Britain ruled India for almost 200 years. And when you rule a country, you write its story. You decide what matters. You decide what's primitive. You decide what's advanced. There was a man named Thomas Macaulay, British politician, 1835. He wrote a famous document, the Minute on Indian Education. He argued that Indian knowledge was worthless, that a single shelf of European books was worth more than all the literature of India and Arabia. His words, not mine. That document shaped the curriculum in India. Under British rule, Indian children learned Newton, they learned Descartes, they learned European mathematics, and their own tradition, Brahmagupta, Aryabhata, Bhaskara, was pushed aside, treated as mythology, or worse, ignored completely. That damage lasted. It still lasts. Even after India's independence, the textbooks didn't change fast enough. The colonial curriculum had become the default. And here's the third reason, the one nobody says out loud. The history of science was written by scientists in Europe, and humans do something natural. We center our own stories. When European mathematicians rediscovered what Brahmagupta knew, they named it after themselves. Because they didn't know. They genuinely didn't know. The translation chain had broken. The Indian source had been forgotten. Brahmagupta's name had faded, and a gap of ignorance became a gap in the record, which became the official history. But here's what I want you to feel. Imagine being Brahmagupta in 628 AD. You're 30 years old. You're sitting in Binmal. You're writing down rules that will shape algebra, that will shape algorithms, that will eventually shape every computer ever built, every phone in every pocket, every search engine, every line of code. All of it traces a line back to those 18 verses, written in Sanskrit, in a town nobody remembers, by a man nobody mentions. He didn't know what he was starting. He just knew it was true, and he wrote it down. Let me ask you something. I mentioned a Latin book title that even admits its Indian source. What was it called? Take a second. Think about it. The answer is Algoritmi de Numero Indorum, which means Al-Khwarizmi on Indian numbers. Even the Europeans who received this knowledge knew where it came from. That part just got quietly dropped. Here's the question I can't shake. How many Brahmaguptas are there? How many names got lost? How many manuscripts are still sitting in libraries somewhere, waiting to be found? How much of what we call European discovery is really just rediscovery? With the source removed, Brahmagupta's work traveled to Baghdad in 628 AD, then to Europe, then into every textbook on earth. But his name didn't travel with it. That feels like something worth knowing. That feels like something worth saying. Subscribe to Sri Unplugged for more videos like this, and tell me in the comments which hidden history should I explore next.